Okay, so we just talked about design in general, like how you can use it in software development and actually in other applications. So now let's talk about how we can see that happening in web design. So these are going to be the very basics of it. So it's very important that you understand that many of these concepts could cover like whole semesters, and in some cases like whole undergraduate programs. But in software engineering, it's very important that you at least have some very basic elements of this. So remember, we learned that the most basic principles that you need to learn in design, it's our proximity, alignment, repetition, and contrast. And now let's try to see how we can apply those in whenever we're creating our web applications. So the main thing that you have to start considering when creating a web application is what are going to be the main tasks that you want your users to perform. So what are the things that you want your users to do first, and who are going to be those users, and what are going to be the goals and users that you're going to have in your application. So I love always using Airbnb as an example whenever I'm teaching these elements, because Airbnb is kind of like a design first startup, at least here in Silicon Valley, that's how they're known. And I do believe that they actually incorporate many of these concepts very beautifully in there. So when you go and see like this basic application, this is the landing page for Airbnb. And when you consider it, like who are the users and who are the people that Airbnb is trying to target? So it's going to be people like probably like you and me that just want to get like good but cheap rental price, like place for going for different places. And like in here, basically what they want to capture from us is like, hey, look, we have a lot of those different places. And you can stay in Los Angeles for 2 nights on only $250, or like Mexico City, or stay in Paris or in San Diego. So they really want us to go in here, and then they're calling our attention to this main area, and I want to see the contrast that they're including in here. So remember we were saying about like the 4 more important principles, or the most important principles. You have proximity in here, in the sense that all of these listings, they have like clear proximity between this title and the actual element. And at the same time, all of these ones are already like closer than any others, because like they are all the ones that are in Los Angeles, but there is a clear separation between those two in there, because that way you want to know that even though these two are listings in Los Angeles, that they are still close together. You also have alignment, in the sense that you have very clear lines that you see in here, clear lines in the other way. And then, as I was saying in here, you have to consider like the placement and precedence. So usually when you're looking at Western cultures, that especially when we read left to right, like the most important real estate that you have in your application is going to be like in the top left. That's why Airbnb is putting the logo in there. And then top to bottom, so that's why it is call to action with enough contrast, as you can see in here, it is being used for that. Now, in terms of repetition, I want you to see that the color that they're using for the logo is the same color that they have as the main color for the call to action, in this case that it's to search, and then also like in the notification element in here. And they are not abusing it. So whenever they use it, is because they really want to call your attention to that. You also have a little bit of repetition in icons like these ones, or the placement of all the elements, the star, and then or the I love this place element. And then whenever you click in one of the elements, then you can see that they keep on using exactly that same pinkish color, and they are using it for the call to action. They also have this other subtle effect that I'm not sure if you can see in the recording in there. When I move my mouse over the button, it actually changes and shows different elements. So that's also part of the repetition. So again, the first thing is, what is the thing I want my user to do in here? So this is a user that actually wants to get like a cheap place, but it has to be nice. Like I want it to be completely long. So it is explaining all of those elements in here. I want to see if it is like a recommended place, so they just included this guest favorite and that this is a super host, and then they really want me to do the reservation. So that's why they're inviting you to do that in here. So if you consider that with, for instance, I'm scared of actually opening that in my real browser because then they are going to start bombarding me with advertisements. But if you see here, for instance, let's put it side to side if I can pull it up. This is the Airbnb side, and then this is the Vrbo side. So in the Vrbo side, like first, they're not putting it as crowded, so they're actually trying to show that it's a little bit more high class. So the type of, I want to say, I'm not sure, but I want to say that Vrbo is actually targeting like a higher class type of customers. And they're also listing, and when I was showing this to other students, they were saying, oh, look at that. They're actually showing some villas in there, some villas, which seemed like very fancy. So whereas in here, you're looking for a tiny place just to crash in Los Angeles, like for a really small price. In here, we're thinking in more expensive places, but that are very fancy. So when you know your customers, you know what are the type of things that you want to cater for and actually highlight in your website, so or in your application. So that is the very first thing I want you to do. For your next project, go and take that description that you made on what are your user stories, what are your user personas, and then try to see what is the main thing that you want to do on your first page, and then redesign that page so it actually supports that better. Okay, so in terms of layouts, there is a ton of different things that you can use for highlighting that. The whole idea of the layout, it's how it's everything distributed in the page. In this case, like for instance, in these slides, which are also HTML, I'm highlighting like just the title and then putting front and center like the elements that I want to show you. And then if you actually go and look in the Airbnb website, again, we do have a layout where we're starting with the logo, then going top, bottom, and then left to right. And then inside that, you also have a hierarchy where you can see like this is a title and then the subtitles, and then you can see the sizes and the bolding, where it's letting me jump from here to here to here, and then from here to here to here to here. So those hierarchies, which you can get very well on HTML just by using proper headings like a good H1. Remember having one H1 in your page, and then a bunch of H2s, which are going to be dividing things on the page. And then if you need H3s or having subdivisions in there, that gets you that hierarchy. You can also use the grid, which in this case you can see it will give you the alignment and it will help people knowing that you're going in the correct order, like managing the space, as I was telling you, like separation between the items in here, all the separation in here. This separation is bigger than the separation between these two, because those ones are the ones that are supposed to be together, but these ones are not together. Does that make sense? So the other one is using the aligning and distribution, which if you're using like a grid system, like with Flexbox or Bootstrap, as I suggested in the videos, then you should get that for free. And then finally, understanding like how all of this plays, which I recommend you take a look at this article in here. It's a little bit like from some years ago, but it helps you understand like this whole idea of the visual hierarchy. So, and then apart from that, also go and take a look at the readings for more materials on that. Okay, there are more examples on different layouts that you can use. Many of those are just like, and then in this case, again, in design, since we are not experts in that, we just want to be knowledgeable a little bit, then one of the things you can do is just reuse the concepts that you saw on other websites that might work for you. Like for instance, this site I liked because it gave like just a list of examples from other websites where they show some of these different layouts that might work for you. Okay, so take a look at which ones of those you want to use, and then depending on what is your main objective, then you can distribute things in your page according to that. It is very common to have, for instance, like a Jumbotron image or something like that, that is like a main banner that welcomes and tells people what your website is, and then you can start showing like different elements from from your work or whatever you want to show. Okay. The next thing I want to talk to about is typography, but actually let me go and do that one in the next video because this one is getting too big.